Ulysses' great and lasting gift to us, lasting gift to us, is the conviction that other people are as conscious as we are. In our belief, we are wont to credit only ourselves with the level of inwardness we know ourselves to have. That is, we're inclined to solipsism, to think it's only us with a mind like this one. Famously, we judge ourselves by our intentions and others by their actions, but this tendency also takes many more and subtler harmful forms. And it not only harms those with whom we interact, it harms us. In one of Shakespeare's great passages, tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, from near the end of Macbeth, which of course I could recite for you if you want. No, I couldn't, but I've got it written down. Shakespeare hears his wife has died. He's losing the fight. He just really hates life. It's like a real... Yeah, it's a really distilled picture of the kind of hatred towards life itself that someone can feel. And what he complains of is that life's but a walking shadow, a poor player, that struts and frets his hour upon the stage. And what I want to bring your attention to, as regards solipsism, is that the great evil is the great wastefulness, and the great enemy of life is not negative emotion necessarily. It's not sadness or loneliness or failure. It's strutting and fretting upon the stage. Why those two? Well, I think they're characterized by a self-consciousness, because it's not like strutting is necessarily feels bad. So what they have in common is that you, as you do them, the greater part of the feeling they give you relates to who doing them means that you are being, rather than what doing them feels like. It's kind of maybe some examples would be good. Fretting is as if you're in work and your suggestion is not chosen in favour of someone else's suggestion they make, which is better than yours, and even though you have a better solution to work with, now you're unhappy and fretting because you have the feeling that who you are is someone who gets overridden. Another classic, a classic strutting might be like a boy who has lots of like one night stands and doesn't really enjoy them, because the thing he enjoys is the fact that he's having them, not them themselves. In both, and essential to both, I think, is a step of removal, rather than having your feeling determined by the way it feels. It's determined by how you feel about who you think it makes you. And I suppose that is exactly why Shakespeare has it strutting and fretting upon the stage, because the central evil here is that removal from yourself, the treatment of yourself as a third person that one might watch from a crowd upon a stage. I think strutting and fretting, this self-consciousness, occurs when we are solipsistic, when we believe that we are the only people so complicated and developed and inward, we feel the spotlight swing onto us, because how could it not? And in the self-importance that makes us feel, we become disdainful of others, and in the attention it makes us feel, we become judgmental, and we come to put high pressure on ourselves. We're less considerate of others to their detriment, and we're more considerate of ourselves to our own detriment. Ulysses convinces us that other people are as conscious as we are. The critic John Bailey said, "Character is what other people have, consciousness is ourselves." And Ulysses says, not so. Because in Bloom particularly, Molly too, Stephen too, but especially Bloom, we have an unmistakable and irrefutable document of consciousness that is not us. that can exist. Consciousness that is not us. These three characters have not character. They are not characters. They are consciousnesses. Bloom is the highest resolution image of what it feels like to be, of being someone else, the experience of being someone else that we have. And he displays that level of inwardness that we are wont to think is reserved for us, that only we can have. And in doing so, he prohibits solipsism, because he said, no, it's not just you, look at me. The need to teach us this, or to render this, drives Joyce's stylistic innovation, the stream of consciousness. Consider how well you know Bloom. You know his palate, and his other pleasures, his grief about his father from that horrible, heartbreaking taxi scene, his grief about his son, and his insecurity about his wife, and Blazes Boylan from, scattered across the book. His fetishes from the hallucination scene sequence, his relationships, his city, his knowledge, and the very movement of his thoughts. You just cannot read this book and then say, no, it's just me, only I'm this conscious. Installed, although our internal parliament may vote to strut and fret again in future, there installed one staunch and stubborn MP who will forever henceforth vote against solipsism and in favour of life, and who will always carry our acquaintance and our intimacy with Bloom as a kind of inexhaustible well of humanity from which we can always drink. I think this gets at why people say things like that there are two types of people, or that they can divide their life into before having read Ulysses and after. Because after having read it, we are forever a bit less lonely. The mission statement, if you remember all that time ago, of In the Particular, was to become more human by reading great honest literature, and then I refrained from trying to suggest what it might be to be human. Now we've read all these books, I think I might cautiously try and say that at least the better part of being human is recognizing that you are one. That you are human, that everyone else is what you are, and you are what everyone else is. This is a source of great camaraderie, brotherhood, sisterhood, solidarity, encouragement, and peace. That's the first of my points. I got two main ones, and I'm gonna break them up with a story about a rock. So when I was in this summer, summer last year, I was a bit down. I was on holiday with the lads in the Lake District, and yeah, I was kind of down. And one morning I woke up early when no one else was awake, and just got in my car and drove, kind of not really knowing where I was going, up through the Lake District. And I stopped in a field because I saw a circle of stones. I was fretting in the car, worrying about my thoughts, and yeah, I stopped. It wasn't like Stonehenge. It wasn't that big. It was small stones. But there were kind of mountains, fells they're called in the Lake District, around, and it was a nice spot. And I walked up, and there was a sign and it said, "This stone circle is 4,500 years old, and people 4,500 years ago put it here because they liked the drama of the view, and they wanted a place where they could meet to swap, trade livestock, and negotiate the rights to quarry." I read that and touched a stone and got in my car and drove off, and I felt really kind of quiet and peaceful inside. I suppose just and when I couldn't even really summon again the thoughts that were troubling me before. I could only really, it seemed laughable, and so easily laughable it seemed. I suppose it's because that was 4,500 years. Is how much do we remember of that? That's that was like over 200 of me and 9 Shakespeares and 2 Jesuses. I'm putting myself in flattering company there. But and how much do you remember of that? And yet they were, doing the same things. They wanted animals to eat and land. I don't know. And then I just felt kind of a cheer, a kind of warm and quiet cheer. And as I drove back under the kind of speed limit on the edge of a village, someone had written, "Please drive carefully through our village." And I don't know why, but I just loved that. Anyway, that's the end of my anecdote. I should probably put in a timestamp saying this timestamp. Well, let's face it, I never do any of those editing things I say I'm going to do anyway, so that's just not going to happen. On to the second lesson, which is that Ulysses helps us accept and then enjoy our smallness.